USC is going to make the playoffs in 2024, and I'm going to tell you why.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holton, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day, whether you're going to watch the show on YouTube or wherever you download your podcast. Always remember the show is free, and never forget how much I appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. The new 12-team playoff format was finalized this week, and it's going to make it easier, a lot easier, for teams from the Big Ten Conference, SEC, to get 3 to 4 teams per year into the tournament. The new playoff format is called the 5+7. The 5 highest-ranked conference champions plus the next 7 highest-ranked teams as determined by the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. That's how the 12 teams will be slotted in to the new playoff format. Now, the conference champs from the Big Conference, Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12, and the highest-ranked group of 5 champions. Those are going to be how they decide who are the first 5, so to speak. After that, it's the next 7 highest-ranked teams, period. That's the format. Pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. The top 4 teams are going to get a bye week, and then the numbers 5 through 12, they'll match up with each other, and the highest-ranked team, they get the home game. So 1 through 4, they're going to get a bye the first weekend. If you're ranked number 5, you're going to take on team number 12, and you'll be the home team. So that's it. As long as USC is ranked in the top 12 every year, they're going to be in the playoffs. So this is what Coach Matt Entz said, your new linebacker coach, assistant head coach on defense. You are what you tolerate. This is where he asked the question. I'm not a big expectation person. Neither am I. I don't like the word. Neither do I. I like standard. What is the standard? This is a championship level program. Then we need to hold our players to that standard. You are what you tolerate. End quote. So let me be clear. So there isn't any confusion. The standard should be winning the conference championship. However, the standard includes by any means necessary, because the ultimate standard is winning the national championship. That's the ultimate goal. I think then we need to kind of redefine what the standard should be. The standard going forward should always be one of the top 12 teams every year. Like I said, so teams ranked 1 through 4, they're going to get a bye. Maybe Notre Dame will find their way into a conference soon. Because the way the system is set up, I got a big giggle snort out of this. Right now, the Irish, they can host a playoff game, but they'll never get a bye game. They'll never be able to be ranked 1 through 4 because the number 5 seed goes to the best Power 5 conference team that didn't win a championship. Ironically, that means an undefeated Notre Dame, which technically doesn't play in a conference, they're going to be Florida State 2023 for eternity, unless they jump into a conference. Remember, Florida State was the number 5 team last year. They missed the playoffs. So again, that means even if Notre Dame is the number 1 ranked team in the country, they would get the number 5 seed. And what that means is they have to win 4 straight games in the playoffs to win the title. Like I said, you go snort. Let's look at it this way from USC's perspective, because that's what this segment is all about. In the last few years, the winner of the Big Ten Conference Championship game is an automatic qualifier in the 4-team playoff system. And in the new system, the loser, aka Michigan or Ohio State, they would have also made the playoffs. So now teams like USC and Penn State, who is always flirting with, the playoff field, these two teams, they can get an at-large bid and maybe even host a game if they don't win the conference championship. Look, if you're an everyday listener, and why aren't you by now? You better be. You should be. You've heard me say this at least a few times. Teams with 2 losses, and maybe even 3, depending on who they're against, they're going to make the playoff field. The new format makes the conference championship game important again. A win is going to get you a bye, and the loss doesn't hurt you. Taking into consideration, the big conferences, the way where their seat is at the top of the college football pecking order, them and the SEC, always, they're kind of like right here with each other. When you take that into consideration, the third best team in the Big Ten will be enough to receive heavy consideration for a playoff spot. Again, you don't have to be playing in the conference championship game. You can be the third best team with 10 wins. You're going to get a good look from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. So once again, here's Mr. Smug saying, I told you so. Look, I know some of you anticipate USC losing 4 or 5 games this coming season in 2024. It's okay if we disagree. I've explained why the schedule isn't as ominous as it once was when it was originally released. Yes, the trips to Michigan in week 3 and the trip to UW in Seattle up there in November, those are tough places to play. But those programs are going through some pretty big transitions this offseason. Both of them are putting in new coaching staffs. Washington's roster has been raped. We'll see what happens to Michigan's after the second transfer portal window opens up. So after those games, Michigan, Washington, Penn State, that game's in Los Angeles. So's the Notre Dame game. Don't tell me that Wisconsin adding Alex Grinch to their defensive staff scares you. So let's be honest. Deshaun Foster's Bruins aren't going to be good. In fact, they're going to be terrible in 2024. I have USC in the playoffs as long as they don't suffer too many season-ending injuries to key players. Knocking on wood. Make your case. I just laid out the new 12-team playoff system, the format, how it's going to work, how it's advantageous to the big conference, to the SEC, to teams like USC, Penn State. Tell me why USC can't make the playoffs this year. And back it up. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have an opinion, but back it up. Have an adult conversation. I love those. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals. They've got all-in prices. They give you views from the seat and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time has easy-to-find and buy tickets. They even have what they call event cancellation protection. Yeah. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Right now, all Game Time users can use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. If you watch the weekly panel show that I'm a part of, Inside the Trojan Huddle, and you know, I also work over there at WeAreSC.com, then you already know what my answer is going to be. The topic of this segment is I want a second chance. I want to do it over. I want a mulligan. If you golf, again, there's a term they call a mulligan. Essentially, it's a do-over. You get a do-over after you screwed up the first time. But mulligan, that's when the ball's off in the trees. What I want you guys to do, what I want my viewers, my listeners, my everyday listeners, I want you to pick out a play or two throughout the Trojan history that deserves a mulligan. For example, 4th down and 2, you got Reggie Bush standing on the sideline trying to confuse the Texas Longhorns in the national championship game. We know the outcome of that play and how that game ended. However, that's not my mulligan. That mulligan has been beaten into the ground over and over and over again. Before 4th and 2, and before Frosty Rucker lost contain. Hey, look, it's just not an Alex Grinch issue. It's been going on forever at USC. Before all of that, there was a play that would have put the Trojans in victory formation. For the life of me. If Matt Leinert's throw to fullback Brandon Hancock is even at his knees, not at his feet, USC finishes the three-peat. The 34-game winning streak extends to a 41-game win streak because they eventually lost to Oregon State the following year. That's the play USC needs the mulligan on. I still see it. Matt Leinart takes a snap. He has a little bit of pressure, but it's nothing he hasn't seen all year or throughout his career. It was just a simple dump-off pass. Brandon's facing Matt Leinart. It's not like he had his back to him. He had to turn to look for the ball. He was waiting for it. And Matt kind of just short-armed it. Yeah. That's the play we need the mulligan. Because 4th and 2 doesn't happen. That play seals the game. USC has the first down. They run out the clock. Game over. My good buddy Chris Arledge, he picked Eric McNeil's tip into an interception play. Remember, 13-9? USC was going to play for their 4th straight championship had USC completed that comeback. They didn't. I wonder if Pete Carroll, if he would want a mulligan, if he would call that timeout again against Stanford like he did in that 2007 game. Because after that timeout, Jim Harbaugh, he switched up his wide receiver alignment. And then all of a sudden, that touchdown pass was completed. Mosique Curtis was defending the play. And all of a sudden, a 41-point underdog is leaving the Coliseum with a win. Yeah. I wonder if Pete would call a timeout again. Seemed like everything was set up. And it was just one of those, I'm going to outthink the other guy. Well, sometimes just let it roll. Another play that was brought up during that segment. Again, I didn't bring it up, and I still feel bad for the young man. Ronald Johnson's drop in the rain against Notre Dame. This was me when the ball was still in the air. When I was signaling touchdown. I used to stand in the thundering herd. So that play was developing right in front of me from the end zone. I'm watching it. And I'm like this. Touchdown. USC's going to walk in, win the game. And then I'm watching the ball on the ground, and I'm paralyzed. It's like this. Couldn't put my arms down. was in shock. Guarantee you, Rojo wants the mulligan on that one. Because Chris is right. He catches that ball 99 times out of 100. That was the one time. Man, that was a tough loss. Ugh. Oh, my other buddy over there, Eric McKinney. He brought up Curtis McNeil's fumble against Stanford. Remember that triple overtime game? That sucked. Curtis Moody McNeil. He's always going to be an all-time favorite among Trojan fans. But that play, because I didn't remember that one right off the bat until Eric ruined my day. I'm kidding. But that also reminded me of the Herschel Dennis fumble, which also happened in a triple overtime loss. This one happened against Cal. However, and that was a really good hit that the Cal defender put on Dennis at the goal line. But I put that loss on Norm Chow. Let me tell you why. He stopped throwing the ball. He stopped throwing the slant pattern to BMW. I don't know. For some reason, it's like, all right, it's working. It's picking up 5-7 yards. USC is matriculating down the field. Cal had no answer for it. And he stopped calling that play, and he said, let's just run the ball. Well, the game ended up going into overtime, and we know what happened at the end. Do you wonder about, remember the fail Mary defense against Arizona State a few years back? Yeah. I don't know who said, let's put one of our shorter linebackers back there on the goal line to knock the ball down. Yeah, somebody made that decision. Sometimes the players suffer the result, but remember, it's the coaching staff that puts them in that position to be successful. I think in that case, they were put in a position to fail. That's why we don't call it a Hail Mary. We call it the Fail Mary. So what are some plays you'd like to have back? Which ones immediately pop into your head? Obviously I brought up some the more obvious ones from that Rose Bowl game against Texas. What are some other ones that pop into your head? Also in this segment, which football hit was more fierce? This was a really fun topic that we had over there on the Inside the Trojan Huddle episode. So when you're done here, head on over to weareSC.com, check it out. It's a good way to spend another hour and a half, 2 hours of your day. I had a few nominations. You had Kevin Ellison destroying Deshaun Jackson's soul. What about Ray Ray? Remember that hit that he put on UCLA's quarterback, Patrick Cowan? Had him blowing snot bubbles? Or, I know it didn't count because it was a penalty, but I think that that hit from Troy Polamalu on Kansas State's Aaron Lockett on that punt return, yeah. That was such a vicious, violent hit. And it made it so violent because, number one, Lockett is a small guy. I think he's like 5'8" when he stands on his tippy toes. Tough as nails kid. Don't get me wrong. Love to have him on your football team. But when Troy Polamalu hits you, you feel it. And Lockett had no idea. I mean, his head is up. He's waiting for the ball to come down. And Troy got there just, I don't know, a split second too early. That was a pretty violent hit. So, Kevin Ellison gets special consideration because Deshaun was talking all sorts of mad cow junk when he and the team was coming out of the tunnel for the game. I mean, he was just whooping it up to the crowd. Remember, I was in the Thundering Herd at the time, standing on the wall. I saw and heard it all. Ray Ray's hit, that was pretty violent. But, you got to give credit to the quarterback. He popped right back up, blew his nose, got rid of the snot bubbles. He finished the game. Still, pretty violent hit. And again, I know Polamalu's hit was a penalty, but even Taylor Mays would have been proud of that one. And the reason why I didn't bring up a Taylor Mays hit is because he gets his own category. They're called felony hits. We'll do that in a segment on another episode of Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network. Hey, tell you what, if you like what you're hearing, what you're seeing, do me a favor, become a subscriber. It means a lot to the show. Smash that thumbs up and also hit that bell notification button. That way you won't miss an episode, because Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, we come at you 5 times a week. Nobody else out there does that for you. And that's why I say thank you. I really do appreciate you. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. And you can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with. They've got quick bets. You like to do some live same-game parlays? Well, guess what? FanDuel has that for you. And they also have some exclusive prop bets. And they've got more than just that. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Got the favorite recruit of the week segment for you here on this episode of Locked On USC. Imagine being the proud parents of 3 boys, and all 3 had the opportunity and were lucky enough to play major college football. True story. 2 of those young men are going to be will be USC Trojans. Marcelles Williams just wrapped up his Trojan career. Secondary safety. Don't worry, Trojan fans. There is always a Williams available to play in the secondary for USC. Here comes my favorite recruit of the week. Little brother to Max, Marcelles. He's got 2 older brothers, Max and Mason Williams, played at USC and Arizona State, respectively. I've heard Max say this before a few times. Maybe you've heard him say it. Celis is going to be the best of the 3 brothers. Out of the 22 commits who signed with USC's 2024 recruiting class, USC's highest rated players out of California were at the skill positions. First, Xavier Jordan, wide receiver. The next highest rated player, it was Marcelles Williams, cornerback, St. John Bosco. Celis is another one of those guys who recruited back in June last year, and then he never looked back. He took some trips, but he was locked in. As a sophomore playing for the St. John Bosco Braves, he recorded 42 tackles and 7 pass breakups. And then in 2022, 46 tackles, 4 more pass breakups. And then he also became so good, he earned it's not called the Army All-American Bowl anymore, but he was an All-American Bowl participant. At this point right now, he's already enrolled at USC. He's taking part in winter workouts. He was listed at 5'11", 175 pounds. Pretty sure he's already gained a few pounds. So let's say he's 5'11", 180. Good size for a cornerback. As I mentioned, he's always going to be a Trojan. It was kind of in his DNA, part of his blood. But he had his choices. USC was able to keep him home and keep him from going to either Oklahoma, Ohio State, UCLA, Georgia. So that's a recruiting win, despite having, the inside track. Remember, USC's defense wasn't selling itself. So despite being a top-tier recruit, Marcelles doesn't have that attitude that sometimes is often associated with, those types of guys. He doesn't have that I'm the dude attitude. He's humble. Before the All-American game, he told WeRSC, quote, "Being at USC, it's a blessing. It's a big blessing. I just want to be able to compete and just make myself known and put myself on notice and try to get on the field early. End quote. I mean, it's a dream come true. Like growing up, I always rooted for USC, always shouted for them, just screaming on the TV for them and all that stuff. So just being out there, living out my dream, that's just a blessing. I've talked about what it means to be recruited by USC and to have that Trojan blood kind of coursing through your veins. I think it means more to the guys who were recruited than the guys who come over through the transfer portal. Marcelles knows what it means to be a Trojan. He knows his history. This is what he said. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but I remember Adoree Jackson. That's probably one of the main ones. Like Adoree was probably one of my favorites to watch when I was growing up. That Rose Bowl was like probably one of the best games I remember too. And I was at. This wasn't that long ago. But that Texas game that was sold out where they went to overtime in the Coliseum, that's probably the best game I've ever been to. I was at that game. So was I. That was when they were recruiting my brother. He's referring to Max. So I still had like all the little recruit experiences. That was fun. I was at that game too. It was fun, Marcelles. I thoroughly agree. Winning is always fun. Marcelles also knows that he won't be able to play football forever. And he knows this because it's personal to him. He's like you and me. He's closer to the situation. He watched his older brother Max rehab more than anyone should have to. So life after football for Marcelles includes, he said he's going to major in business, but he wants to take a minor as well, because he knows this will help him with his life after football. I'm probably going to minor in journalism because I might want to be a sports journalist later on. Welcome to the club. This is what gets Marcelles excited. His words. Quote, I mean, obviously the big games, like you get to play the Michigans, the Penn States, the Ohio States, and on those stages, the whole world would be watching. The crowd would be going crazy. Sold out stadiums with like 90 to 100,000 in there. So just the atmosphere, the lights. Like, I'm a football player. I'm a competitor. So just being able to play on the stage like that, it's just amazing. End quote. I watched Marcelles's signing day video. In order, he thanked God for providing him the ability to be as good as he can be. He then thanked his dad for spending all those endless hours working with him so he could be the best he could be. And then his mom for being his number one fan and number one supporter and giving him all that love and emotional support. Then his older brothers for paving the way, showing him the right way and the wrong way of doing things. What you get from Marcelles Williams, he's family-oriented. And that's why he's going to fit in perfectly with the Trojan family and what Lincoln Riley's looking for. The culture he's trying to build in that locker room. Look, I know I'm a little biased. I've watched the young man grow up, and obviously I've gotten to know Max a little bit over the last few years. I've broken bread with the family. I think Marcelles is going to be really good under the direction of Antonlynn and Doug Belk. I'll tell you, I cannot wait to see what he looks like in Cardinal and Gold this spring. Looking forward to it. And that is why he is my favorite recruit of the week for this episode of Locked On USC. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow. That's what we do around here 5 times a week, part of the Locked On Network. Once again, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Become a subscriber. Smash that thumbs up button. Don't forget to hit that bell notification button. So until our next episode, everyone, you know what to do.